Hello, hello. It's on? Yes. Okay, can you resume? Right? Okay, I hope you enjoyed the activity. And the reason for doing that is exercise some aspects. First, it's nice to talk to people, okay? Another thing important is if you think you improve the way you made your comments, okay? You make your comments. Every time you restart to make the comment, you are about improving every time, okay? And of course to be open to new experience, right? So I hope you enjoyed this, and it's nice to be under the sun anyway, right? Okay, so we're going to show you the next part of this section, which will be, well, I have Victor here with me because he helped me with this, and he also going to explain to you some aspects of this, all right? So the idea is there are some materials being passed for is to let's work in couples again, okay, in couples, all right? So something to work with your colleague, all right? The material is being distributed. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. You're gonna play with this matrix. You call the matrix of ecosystems and ecosystem services, all right? So what we're going to do is you select some ecosystems. The region is called the Baixada Santista. I don't know if there is an English name for that, but it's the coastal zone close to Santos. That's the word Santos, the Santista, okay? So it means lowlands around Santos, Baixada Santista, more or less, okay? So you select some ecosystems because those ecosystems we are going to view, we are going to visit, I don't know where, someday this coming morning, right? So this coming week, right? So the figures are illustrative, but you try to get some real ones, okay? So this is more or less the area. São Paulo is here, this huge urban area, okay? Here's the coast, there are some mountains here. So that's a plateau, in fact. So there is a big change in altitude here. That's the coastal plain here. And Santos is over there, right? So we're going to show you some ecosystems from this area. That's a closer view of Santos. It's an important port here. It's the biggest port in Brazil, okay? And quite urbanized area, okay? But also places with beaches, sand beaches. There is a lot of tourism, especially in the summer, okay? And you select some ecosystems, like the sand beaches, kind of crowded in the summer, no? Or weekends, I don't know. The Restinga. Restinga is a Brazilian name for, it's always a debate about the Restinga, because it's a geomorphological system, but also a system that can be defined by the kind of vegetation. So you try to be more pragmatic in these terms and define it like vegetated sandbars. The deposit systems, sandy deposit systems at the coast and the coastal plain with this typical vegetation of lowlands in the coast, okay? It's something between coastal forest and sand dunes in the middle of the road, right? It's very common. Mangroves, those pictures are from here. How's the name of this bird, red one?
Guará.
Guará is typical from here. I hope you can see some. Hope so. Well, we have the marine near shoreline, where there are a lot of economic activities, fisheries, transportation, whatever. Okay. Something you call parcel, which is also a Portuguese name, but means those rocky bottom, okay, close to the coast. It sometimes can be a small island with rocky bottoms around, but sometimes only rock bottom, but doesn't go to the surface. It's not organic. I mean, it's not biogenetic. Okay, is rocky covered with organisms for sure, right? It's not like a pure coral reef, for instance. The Atlantic rainforest, in my opinion, that's one of the most beautiful scenarios you have in this region. When all these Atlantic mountains reach the sea, you know, so they have this combination of forest and beaches and rocky shores. They are quite beautiful. So, rainforest, the rock shores with cliffs or hard bottom, hard. There are some rivers. What's the name of the river?
Cubatão e Itapanhaú River.
So
this is on the left side. This is Cubatão's river, which across like one of the most polluted areas around Brazil, and this other one is Itapanhaú River, which borders the city of Bertioga, and yeah, there are a lot of complexity in these areas.
Keep them. We are more familiar. He's from this region. I'm not, so I will help you with that. So you can. Okay.
Yeah, actually, like I studied coastal management in this area, so I'm quite used to these environments. So we have these two estuaries, one in a very small city called Peruíbe, and the other one, this is quite dynamic and in Bertioga also. Yeah, this is the Estuarine Channel. This is the port channel, and you can see that the city of Santos is here, and the city of Cubatão, which is an industrial area just around the port. Yeah, and then that's the port also, yeah. Okay. This is the urban areas in this region. So yeah, as I told you, actually Santos and São Vicente is one huge island, because you can see the Estuarine system going all around the island, and you can see it gets very dense in urbanized areas. So there is not much nature in this region. Yeah, and then I think Tuha set up some things about the buildings on the shoreline, these ones. And yeah, you're gonna see that all of them are really not straight, you know, because of the bottom. So they were built in the 70s or 60s, and now they're starting to get like angled.
So go there and see them. I don't know how long they will stay.
Yeah, and then we try to list some of the main activities that happen in this region. Yeah, and as Milton said, like most of the activities that we try to list is coastal based, but it also happens on the sea too. So yeah, as Milton said, like this is the largest port in Latin America actually, and in 2017 it was it transported like all over the port system around 130 million tons of cargo, yeah. And that it like the whole city is the activities are just supporting the port activity. And yeah, then we have the industry in Cubatão, and as I said, it was the most polluted city in the 80s, and they they try to manage all of those industries. Now it's getting a little bit better, but the effects continue from then. And it's most chemical industry, fertilizers. So you can imagine that there's a huge environmental concern if this goes into the estuaries and the rivers. As Milton said, like the Petrobras, which is the state company in Brazil, they found out this huge deposit of oil offshore, and it's called Pré-sal in Brazil. It's very deep, and now they are mapping where they can drill it. This is kind of the whole field, the oil field, and then you can see that it gets like pipes, oiled pipes, like to São Paulo and even to Rio de Janeiro, which is like far away from here, and it gets very complex systems of oil pipes.
So to apply the sustainable development goals proposed by Blue Economy in this case will be kind of complicated. No? So.
And actually, most of the oil that is drilled offshore Santos is refined in Cubatão also, and there is this huge oil plant in Cubatão.
I'd like to just to highlight this number. The oil from Pré-sal is about 3.5 million barrels of oil per day. No? So you can imagine that it's a lot. No? And that's the amount to be treated in this refinery. No? 130,000 barrels of oil per day. It's a lot. Go ahead. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and the beaches are all crowded during the summer because here we have this kind of in this region especially the second residence tourism, which is people from São Paulo buy a time ago houses in this region, and they occupy this during the summer. It gets very crowded, up to 1.9 million tourists during the summer. Yeah, and of course it gets more complex when you go to artisanal fisheries, and the main ones here in the coast areas are the gill net and the trawling, especially for shrimps. And also industrial fisheries, which you can imagine that it's quite conflictuous with artisanal fisheries, and the main ones, long line and trawling also. Yes.
Yeah. So the group activity now will be. I will ask you. You are not that familiar with those environments, so I just show you to the kind of environment. But let's exercise a little bit this idea. No, is to ask you to choose two ecosystems to work with. Any one of the ecosystems we have shown to you, and try to complete the metrics related to ecosystems you have chosen. So the metrics you have in your hands now, okay, and eventually present your results for the class. Or maybe 2 or 3 of you can, if you like, you can comment a little bit about your choices, your findings, okay, in this exercise. There is a link in I think you can see that. If you link, you can have in your computer or your cell phone all those ecosystems that were presented here, right? So it would be nice to review and to think about. I think I'm going to project quickly, we're going to project the matrix, this Excel sheet, in fact. I return to, I'll leave the link here, no? É esse aqui?
Eu acho que eu deletei para fazer já a captação.
O quê?
Deletei o sistema. Mas
No, it's okay. Okay, that's what you get. You see, you have room for 2 ecosystems. You are free to choose any ecosystem. Okay, and you ask you to try to put what you think will be the main, not the main ecosystem service provided by those ecosystems. And it would be nice to classify in support, provision, regulatory, or cultural services, okay? Following the general classification you use, all right? So just try to mention some important ecosystem service from the ecosystem you choose, okay? The idea is, can we imagine from every service some social and economic benefit? Which will be the social and economic benefit? I know that sounds like anthropogenic, but that's the way it is when you play with ecosystem services in this kind of approach. Also, from every ecosystem service, then can you think about the economic activity that uses these ecosystem services? Which will be some, try to relate to the economic activities you are showing here. No? So ecosystem service, some benefit, some economic activity that uses those services. And finally, let's move here. Well, as you didn't start to talk about impacts, okay? But I think it's nice to start to think about, because when you go there, you can also check some ideas. Well, do you think that activity using those ecosystem services can produce some impact? And if so, there will be an impact in the ecosystem which is producing the service, or maybe in other ecosystem. So you can maybe try to put some ideas about. And finally, just maybe pushing too much your time here and possibilities, because in fact you don't saw in detail those activities. But if there is an impact, could you imagine some kind of measurement, how to say, indications like, in terms of this kind of impact, it would be nice to have some kind of zoning or education, environmental education program, or fish regulation. What do you consider as a management indicator at first? Just to be further discussed in the rest of the course, all right? So, yes?
So the management indicators, are they indicators we think are part of this service, or what we would put in?
What your suggestion, okay? Your perception. It's absolutely free, okay? Your feelings about. Yes?
Could you clarify the distinction between support and regulation?
It's a difference in, let's get some example. All right. Okay. The easiest one, provision. Okay, when you produce ecosystem can offer organic matter, food, minerals. Okay, the provision of an ecosystem. Ecosystem is producing something, energy. Okay, culture I think is also comprehensive. You know, the beauty of that, the meaning, the spiritual meaning of things, the historical value, things like that. Regulation, like I have a sand beach or coastal dunes that can regulate the balance of sediments. Okay, if you have a storm that take off your sediments from the beach, the dune can return some sediments to the, so there is a regulation of the situation of coastline. That's a regulation service. Also, if you have a cliff or can regulate the dynamic of the ocean, and maybe you can have a place for boats in a protected area. So there's a regulation service. Okay? The more difficult to understand is the the support service, because sometimes you don't use this classification. You put support together with regulation. I think that's okay to take in separate ways. So support will be, you can imagine some service to give support to another service, like building soil, okay? The nature can build soil, and that can be the support for production service. But as I mentioned before, I think in this exercise, but in other situations, it will be easy to look at the support service like the service related to space. Because ecosystems, they give you space for other service. For instance, if you have the Estuarine Channel and is deep enough for navigation, this ecosystem, Estuarine Channel, this service of space for navigation is a support service.
But for the cliff example you said, it's support also.
It's also support, yes. So sure. Can regulate, can support. I mean, the same ecosystem providing more than one kind of service. Okay, perfect, no problem, all right? Okay. You think that you can have half an hour with your colleague to exercise that? Well, myself and Victor will be walking around and try to help and with some comment. If you, I'll put again the link. You please check the ecosystems using the link, right? Don't be scared to get some wonderful results. Let's exercise the ideas, all right? Let's get it. So well. See. So now is now is 12:15. So let's go to 15 to 1. All right? Half an hour. Now it's 12:15. Let's go to 12:45. Half an hour to exercise this. Hello, everybody. Well, we have to stop here. Sorry, but we only have more 9 minutes to 1 p.m. So I hope that was a good time, good exercise to exchange some ideas and concepts for you. Let me ask you if some of you would like to just give us a brief resume of your results. You can pick just one ecosystem and just kind of read what you did and just to bring some examples. Does anybody like to show some results? Come on, guys. So who would like to? You okay? All right, great. Congratulations.
So basically, we chose rivers as one of our ecosystems, and the support that we classified was the support trees, vegetation around the rivers, and the nutrients they help transport and sediments, and what's this? It's my handwriting. Okay, let's move on. And then provision, they provide food, fish, particularly and other aquatic resources that we ignore, but someone finds that as food. They provide wood and fiber, and then also they provide water for a lot of household consumption, whether it's drinking or bathing and other activities. And then regulation, they regulate temperature, pollination, climate, diseases. And then cultural, they provide aesthetic, religious, education, recreational, inspiration, and then also gives a sense of belonging to a person, and then also a sense of community and cultural heritage. And then the social and economic benefits that the river gives can be it's a sense of belonging, even though it's not money, but everyone wants to feel that this is home, then sense of community, and then livelihoods. And then going to economic activities that use these ecosystem services. So for the rivers, we identified small fishing at different levels, small scale, artisanal, sport fishing, and other sport activities, and then also transportation. And then possible impacts could be overfishing, pollution, litter, and then litter through fishing gear and other plastics and all other materials. So management indications, we were stuck there, so maybe someone can fill that gap.
Okay, very well. Some different ecosystem. Okay, all right.
Well, I'm not not an ecologist, so I have some guesses. And it is about the ecosystem that I like just as a natural beauty. When I go to Santos, I like that Atlantic rainforest. So I have chosen the ecosystem services that includes soil aggradation, that is a sport provided by that forest. And the provisions, I think, there is the habitat that is provided by that forest for the birds. And there may be, I don't know, some fruits CDC in that forest. And in the regulatory system, I think there is temperature balance or rain EDC. And in the cultural system, I'm not well aware if there are a lot of indigenous people. And social and economic benefits. I'm from Pakistan, actually. So when we go from here to Santos, the roads are well, and due to these forests, there is not soil degradation. So in Pakistan, we have a lot of problems of soil degradation because it's very hilly area, you see. So I think there is no risk of soil degradation or not much problems, so we don't need to spend a lot of expenses. So in the provisions of economic benefits, it's tourism. And in the regulation, temperature balance, EDC, rain provides a well-being in the system. And the cultural activities are, again, tourism and sports. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
I like to make some comments because some of you asked me again about my suggestion to really consider the space aspect of supporting services. I'm trying to give you a practical examples of that, okay? For instance, you have a grassland, okay, a field, and you want to construct on that. So that space that the ecosystem provides, it's not provisioning, it's not necessarily cultural or regulation, but this is a space for this economic or socio-economic use. So you can consider it as a supporting service. Another example is the near shore marine ecosystem, the space for navigation, okay? Because the providing service in this system maybe will be fisheries stock, producing of fisheries stock, okay? But the space to allow the fisheries boat to move in is a supporting service of this system, okay? So we think about it. But that's another thing related to supporting service, which is when you think about not anthropogenic use of that, but also service the nature to nature. And then, as my suggestion, one way to consider that is the supporting of the biodiversity as a supporting service also. Okay, so the ecosystem can support biodiversity, and there will be the supporting to others service produced by that biodiversity. It can be provisional or whatever. Okay, so my suggestion is that that will be a good way to consider that. No? Does anybody has a different view or a different suggestion or anything you'd like to bring to us? Because I think you are about the time to finish. If not, all I have to say is thank you very much, because you are great. I enjoy pretty much the activity outside. You know, it was funny. I have seen, I saw the films. You should see. And I hope you can have a very nice week next week, because I'm going to leave tomorrow morning. But it was very, very nice to be here with you and know you. Okay, all the best for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milton. Thank you, everybody. Now we have to say it's lunchtime. Yes. And then we are going to CPUSP, to the Olympic Center, Sports Center. And then we will reconvene at 3 to make another discussion related to the future of this network. What we are going to do, what can we do, how can we do, and then we will do a plenary discussion on how to move forward. Is it nice? And then, coffee again. Yeah, I always make word twists. I thought it's uncontrollable, okay? And now I thought in a word twist that's a little bit sad. I said coffee again. I remember Kofi Annan, which died today. So it was a great guy, a great person that led the UN. And so I think it's important to remember his work because it's related to what we are looking for here. So, Kofi Annan, okay? Well, let's see you soon in the restaurant. Bye-bye.